As people are joining, I'm going to recommend that you grab a notebook to take some notes. That's one way to go through the webinar. Another way is just to sit back and take it all in. You will get a recording of this webinar so you can go back and watch it again to really write down the things that resonate and to get the most out of the webinar, because I've included a lot of information. And so you might need to go through it once or twice to fully grasp everything that is in here. Just a couple more minutes while we wait. It is technically noon right now, so it is our time to begin. Thank you to those of you who have joined me. I am excited to be here with you. So let's just dive in. This is a webinar talking about tools and teachings for navigating change. Welcome. Thank you for being here again. My name is Annie Kuensting. I have a master's degree in education and a background in education, which is really where I honed my skills of navigating change. Working with students, asking them to grow on a consistent basis really showed me the challenges that lie with what we've been, taught about how do we grow and how do we learn. Lots of disbelief, lots of frustration, lots of feelings of anxiety in these little bodies. And it gave me an opportunity to go deep on learning how do we move through change. And that background led to starting my own company, Beacon Empowerment Strategies, which I am the founder and owner of now. I'm an alignment and empowerment coach, and I also do DEI coaching and consulting. I have a certificate from Cornell in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really my life has been a practice in diversity, equity, and inclusion, learning as much as I can about myself and who I am and how that impacts my world, so that I can, truly be the change and create a world that works for everyone. It's really an honor to take all of my previous life experiences and to bring it into, this capacity of work and make it available to more people and everywhere. It really feels like a gift. There's more information about me, what I do, and my background on my website, which is listed here, www.beaconempowerment.net. So before we begin, I just want to, make an acknowledgement, a diversity, equity, and inclusion acknowledgement. We all have bias, and we're meaning-making machines. And it's important to recognize that we have bias when we are making sense of the things that are going on in our world, particularly things that kind of challenge who we are and what we believe. And myself and my company, we're committed to our own awareness of the biases that we hold, and we're committed to taking action, right, to consciously counter these biases. And that's particularly important because when we're talking about change, we're not just talking about change in our life, we're talking about changes in our world. And that's happening at a speed and at a rate that we haven't seen before. So it's important to become aware of the stories that we tell ourselves about what's happening, and to get curious, to uncover, ways in which perhaps we're not telling ourselves the fullest story or the truest story, or that our story is limited based upon our own lack of knowledge and awareness of the experiences of others. So like I said, this webinar is two parts. It's part teaching and it's part tools. So the first part is going to be the teaching, where I talk about change and what happens, when we go through change. The truth is that change is uncomfortable. When we're facing change, we go into a stress response and we have uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, and emotions and sensations in the body. And our reaction to change drives how we are with change. And the ways that we respond or react to change are partly biological, instinctual, and partly learned. And most of us have learned to fear change, to resist change, to think of change as something that's bad or threatening. And this leads to increased stress and drama. And when we find ourselves with increased stress and drama, what we typically do is we can shut down, and then we repeat patterns. And that leads to stuckness, because when we are not open to change, when we are not allowing change to grow us and to expand our life and our experience, we stop the process, and then what we can see is repeating patterns, repeating responses, repeating reactions. And oftentimes those continue until we get fed up and we say no more, right? And so the first foundational thing is to really to change how we see change, right? Change is really an opportunity for growth and for healing. When we're talking about transformation, we're talking about getting to the root. We're talking about looking at our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, the sensations that we have in our body, and consciously choosing to do something that will allow us to feel better, to return back to a better feeling place. And this process over time rewires our response to change, right? It transforms our experience, and it gives us freedom, the freedom to choose a new way to be in response to what's happening, and to unlearn the stress response that is prevalent in our lives, right? It's important to remember that this is a mindful practice. It's not something that we can just shift overnight. We have to be committed, and we have to use compassionate curiosity when we are observing ourselves and the ways that we react to change, so that we can open ourselves up to something new, and we have to give ourselves permission to choose and choose again and choose again, because we, the way that we learn, it's not one and done, although we may want it to be, especially those of us who are high achievers. We may want to just be able to learn something and go with it, but that's just not the way that it is. So we have to remember that this is a practice. We're committing to a practice, and the practice never ends, right? And with that, we feel a greater sense of freedom and ease. We're in it for the long haul, and our conscious awareness and our willingness to choose a different response to what's happening over time transforms how we navigate and be with stress and change. Part of this, another thing that's required is that we have to become aware. We have to pay attention to the thoughts that arise in our mind, the emotions and the feelings that we have in our body, within our heart, and then the sensations in our body. We have to admit, and be honest about what's happening. And one way that we can kind of deepen our practice of accepting what is and creating the space to do something different is to really take on the role of the non-emotional observer, right? So instead of looking at our responses to what's happening and judging them and critiquing them, we just pay attention. And when we can pay attention, we can identify, this helps me or this doesn't help me. This empowers me, this moves me forward, or this, derails me even more. And then we have to bring in this compassionate curiosity. Like I said, we have to wonder, how else could I do this? How else could I think about this? We have to create some lightness, which really is foundationally rooted in curiosity and wonder, so that we can become more receptive to change. Okay. So as we go through this process, these are the things that we have to stay mindful of, friends. We have to be kind to ourselves and to others. We have to show ourselves compassion. We're going to witness reactions. We have a meltdown with the child in the morning and we snap, and we have to give ourselves grace. We have to be able to say, I reacted there. I didn't consciously choose how to respond. And we have to forgive ourselves. If we aren't willing to forgive and to make mistakes and to be in process, then we will just continue our normal ways of being, right? So forgiveness, kindness, and compassion are crucial. We also have to accept what is. We may not like what is happening. We may not like that, we get a call in the morning and our whole day is shifted. We may not like the fact that COVID came. We may not like the things. We may not love them, but we have to accept it. We have to say, it is what it is. This is the reality, so that we can get curious about choosing an aligned response. When we stay in resistance and we refuse to accept what is, we prolong the stress and we create unnecessary drama. The process of moving into acceptance does take time. I think about when I got into a bad car accident and I totaled my Jeep this past winter. And it took me a while to accept the fact of what had happened. I was not happy. I did not like what was happening. But my unwillingness to accept, this is what's happening. I'm going to have to go find a new car. I'm going to have to go through this process. When I could surrender into what was happening, then I could move forward and I could do it in a way that was exciting, right? I could open up to, I wonder what kind of car I'm going to get. I wonder what cool people I'll meet when I'm out looking for a car, right? But I wouldn't have had access to any of that if I hadn't already accepted what was, right? So that's a brief overview. We have to see change as something that's happening for us, not to us. We have to remember that we have the power to choose how we respond to change. And we have to have the awareness, the curiosity, and the compassion to be with ourselves as we try to move to something else. This is where this is the fun stuff, the tools. So transformation, if we're talking about transforming our response, instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it or pretending that something isn't happening, we actually have to turn toward what we resist. So we have to turn toward the uncomfortable thoughts. We have to turn toward the uncomfortable feelings and emotions. We have to turn toward the sensations in our body. And when we do that with this compassionate curiosity, we can begin to loosen the habit, the pattern that we have, and create something new. That is transformation. That is how we kind of break free from what we've always done, and we start to consciously choose what we want, right? And when we do this, we can't go back. So once we learn how to navigate stress and change in a way that doesn't throw us out, that isn't as dysregulating, we won't go back, right? Because we won't have tolerance for those feelings of discomfort. We will move more quickly into, what do I need to do in order to feel better so that I can respond to whatever is happening? So I like to think of responding to change. We have two choices. We can align with love or we can align with fear. So when we're aligning with love, we're choosing to trust, right? We're choosing to reach for peace and ease. Love it's a feeling, and it feels like fun. It feels like inspiration. It feels like passion, and it feels like compassion, and that's really where we want to be when we're moving through change. Most of us have learned to respond to change with fear, right? Which looks like doubt. It looks like worry. It looks like resistance. It looks like overthinking. It looks like numbing out. It looks like denial, right? It looks like these things that really then just perpetuate and prolong whatever it is that we're going through. So the most fundamental thing to remember here is that we have choice. We can choose to align with love, which is really the practice of surrender, acceptance, and allowing. And when we do that, we feel good and we do good, right? So our response drives our behaviors and what happens. And we want to have the best outcome possible. So we have to consciously choose to align with those feelings of fun, inspiration. And when we can't reach for that, when change comes and it is, it really shakes us to our core, then we have to reach for peace and ease. That is also the feeling of love. So we have to become aware of, where am I aligning with love or with fear? We can pay attention to our actions. We forgive ourselves for where we're at, and then we choose again. So when we're habituated, we have this like negativity bias, right? So we're gonna kind of move towards worst case scenario, worst outcome, right? So this isn't like we're bad people, what's wrong with us, I'm broken, there's something to fix. No, this is just how we've been conditioned to think, right? So let yourself off the hook, right? And the fact that you're here, you're watching this means that you wanna feel better when life throws the curveballs. So these are the three things to keep in mind, right? The process of moving from fear to love requires 4 steps. It requires that we pause, we notice, we allow, and we choose. And I'm going to go more deeply into those 4 steps in the upcoming slides. It requires that we feel and we process our emotions, right? We live in a society that stays up here. We overthink, we intellectualize, we try to make sense of everything up here instead of anchoring into our heart and our body and just letting ourselves feel what we feel. A lot of us are afraid of feeling, because it puts us in a vulnerable place. It's not uncomfortable to feel feelings like sadness and grief, and fear. It's not, but we have to feel and process through that if we want to return to a truer nature, a truer way of being, which is to have love and trust in life and what's happening. And then on a consistent basis, right, we need to practice daily alignment. So we need to do things on a daily basis that kind of work the muscle, right, of aligning with love, so that when something bigger comes, we've got a well to pull from, right? A well of daily practices that we've been working at to help us create that foundation for when the bigger stuff comes. I will also go into what a daily practice can look like for you so that you can start to build up your resilience muscle or your responsiveness muscle before something comes to kind of throw you out. Here we go. So tools and practices to strengthening the pause. This is the first thing that's happening, right? So when we're thinking about something happens and then we have a reaction, right? A lot of times it feels like they're right. A thing happens, we react. But the truth is, in between that space is a pause, right? And oftentimes it doesn't feel like there's a pause because we haven't created the practice of pausing. So in order to strengthen our ability to know, to witness what's happening and to begin the process of consciously choosing to it in a way that feels good, we have to deepen our pause. There are 2 very simple ways to do this. One is the practice of meditation, and one is the practice of mindfulness. I've provided some ideas about how to begin these 2 practices, but I just want to speak to meditation right now. A lot of times people think that, meditation is, you have to be like this, monk meditating on the hill. You don't. All you have to do is sit down and focus on your breathing. And when you notice that you get distracted with the thoughts, here's what I got to make for dinner. Oh my God, I got to call that person back. I forgot to get this at the grocery store. I got to, email this, or the laundry needs to be put away, whatever. When you notice the thoughts start to spin, you allow them to be, and you simply recenter on your breath. This can be done walking. You can go for a walk and really focus on being in the here and now. You can do it in nature. You can do it sitting down, right? You can do it sitting with a cup of coffee. There's lots of ways to bring meditation in. And I don't want you to think that it has to be this like deeply devotional practice where you are, trying to be Buddha-like. All we're doing is working to strengthen our pause. And mindfulness, really set an alarm on your phone and have it go off. And when it goes off, check in with yourself. What's the quality of my thoughts? What emotions and feelings am I experiencing right now? What do I feel that's happening in my body, right? And choose in that mindful moment to align your thoughts, your feelings and emotions, and to relax your body into this feeling of love, right? So this is, when we think about change, it's really about relaxing into something, allowing it to happen, opening up to the receptivity versus willing ourselves through it, forcing ourselves through it, yelling at ourselves to get through it. No, it's gentler, right? It's about relaxing and allowing into it. And You could do this 5 times a day. You could set your phone 10 times a day. If the shit's really hitting the fan, maybe you're checking in once an hour, once every 30 minutes, whatever it is. Set yourself up for success, right? And know when you check in with yourself in the morning, I'm stressed out today. I need to check in with myself more often, and do that for yourself. Show up for yourself. Take that act of self-care. So the next step is noticing. I really think about noticing as pausing brings us kind of aware of our thoughts. Noticing is more focused. What's happening up here? Where do I feel this strength, or I'm sorry, this anxiety in my body? Where do I feel the tension? Typically when change happens, we tense up, we kind of like brace for impact. And the quickest way to release that tension, to allow that tension to kind of dissolve, is to focus on breathing through our heart. So you truly imagine that your heart has lungs. And instead of your energy, typically our energy is up and out, right? So what you want to do is imagine your energy coming down and in. So you focus your awareness, you focus your attention on your heart going down and in, and you take slow, deliberate breaths through your heart. You can practice this right now while you listen to me. And it will calm you down. It will bring you back into a more regulated state. You want to kind of disrupt that train of fearful thinking that can be happening by saying things like, it's safe to be in my body. I am safe right now. Change typically, it triggers this deeply rooted response to threat from like the times when we're being chased by tigers. We're not being chased by tigers, and yet it still can feel that way. So we have kind of like an expanded and unnecessary response to what's happening. So we have to literally remind ourselves, I'm safe. I'm safe in my body. I'm safe in my surroundings. It's safe to notice what I'm feeling and what I'm going through. I'm not going to die, Then the next is to bring in that aspect of curiosity. Where do you feel it in your body? What does it feel like? What's happening? If it could talk, what would it say? If it had a smell, what would it be? If it had a texture, what would it be? So begin to kind of see the sensation, the emotion as something other than you, right? This is how we really strengthen that non-emotional observer. You become, who you really are, you become that observer of what's happening to you instead of being enmeshed with what's happening. So when we can identify the feeling or the sensation or the thoughts and we get curious about them, we create the spaciousness between what's happening and who we are. And it is within that spaciousness that we can choose to do something different. The other thing is that we want to practice imaginative thought with feeling. Some might call it daydreaming or visualizing, right? But when we begin, let's say, if I notice, tension and anxiety in my chest, right? I'm nervous about something, this webinar, let's say, I can intentionally call to mind memories or ideas, or I can visualize about what might happen in a positive way. And that will activate good feelings in our body. And it will, kind of teach our body that it's okay to be open to change, to be open to the unknown, right? And to think, hey, it might actually be a good time. This is also something to practice anytime throughout the day, is to anchor into your heart and imagine and visualize, wonderful memories so that you can expand and be more anchored in your heart than in your head, right? We want to get out of our head and into our heart and our body. And that will allow us to move through change in our best way. Here are some real practical things you can do to get into your body. It's to practice yoga, to do strength training, to go to acupuncture, to get massage, anything that is going to take your attention out of here and into here. And when we do those on a consistent basis, we're not driven by this logic machine that is typically fear-based. We can start to think with our heart, and our heart actually sends more messages to our brain than our brain sends to our heart. So there is innate wisdom in our heart, and the way to activate it and to connect to it is to intentionally connect to our heart. So now strengthening allowing. Allowing is really like the practice of acceptance and surrender. You know, we have to accept, like I said, we have to accept what is, and we have to open to allowing it to happen, right? So self-talk is going to be really important here. That inner critic, that inner dialogue that is playing when things are happening will help us stay regulated, stay grounded, and able to make better choices for ourselves and for the people that we love. So it's reminding yourself, I can be with this discomfort. I allow this discomfort to be. This discomfort isn't more powerful than me. I am more powerful than this discomfort. You know, although I don't like what's happening, I understand that it's happening and I will be okay, right? This is a great time to call to mind all of the other experiences that you've been in that you thought perhaps you weren't going to make it through, times that really knocked you down, and to feed your brain that evidence, right? To say, you made it through these other really hard times, you will make it through this too. That is one way, you know, evidence really helps our brain rewire itself into a more loving and optimistic approach versus that resistant and fearful response that we have. And this is where we really get to see this as, I get to grow and expand and use spiritual practices, which is really, the spiritual practice is expanding into love, is becoming more receptive to love. So this is where you really use your heart and your mind to trust, to have faith in yourself, in your community, in your friends, in your family, in something greater, if that aligns with you, whatever it may be, right? You armor yourself in this, not as a protective measure, but as I can do this, I can handle this. And a really important thing is to stay connected to the larger perspective. You know, when change comes, when stress comes, we can get like so narrow-minded in our thinking. It's like, you know, a mouse running through the field, trying to make its way out. I can't see anything, and it's going to get freaked out and stressed out. But if we can zoom up, right, to that larger perspective, let's say to the hawk's perspective, and we can say, okay, this is a situation, this is a time in my life that's really hard and really challenging, right? But it is just one time in my life. It is just one chapter in my life. And I know if I look from this larger perspective, or if I use hindsight, I can see that I am resilient. I do overcome, right? I know how to navigate hard and challenging times. And the more that we can bring ourselves, we'll probably be stuck in some of the fearful thoughts. That's normal, right? So the more that we can realign ourselves with that higher perspective, the easier it will be to move through and navigate change. The tool that I really like, and this is particularly good for anxiety, it's called straw breathing. So you breathe into your mouth, let's say for 4 counts. And you want to breathe into your diaphragm, so your low belly. Let your belly fall out. No sucking in your gut, none of that. Like, let it all hang out. So you breathe in for 4 counts, and then you breathe out like you're breathing out through a straw. But you breathe, the exhale is twice as long as the inhale. So if you breathe in for 4 counts, you're going to exhale for 8 counts, right? Through the straw. The straw is important. And this specific breathing practice over time has been proven to lower high blood pressure, you know? So whether or not something is happening in your life, if you just feel stressed with all of the changes that are happening in our world, doing a daily practice of straw breathing will help alleviate anxiety. Trust me, I know. Okay, now the best part, right? Well, maybe not the best part, but the part that I feel like is most empowering, which is the recognition and the awareness that we get to choose. We can consciously choose what we think. We can consciously choose to process and feel our emotions and to realign them to something that feels better. And we can consciously choose actions and behaviors that feel good to us and that allow us to be the best version of us for ourselves and for the world, right? Sometimes it's hard to choose and to know what we really want. So earlier when I said our energy is up and out, we want to tune inward. So again, we imagine and we focus, we bring our energy down and in, right? So we tune inward. And we ask ourselves, you can ask your inner self, your heart, what do I really want here? What would be the best next step for me and for my family, for my community, for whoever, right? What does my heart really desire here? What is in my best interest? And if we struggle with things like people pleasing, if it hasn't been safe for us to want, to desire, this can be hard, and we have to remember that what is best for us is best for everyone else, even if they don't understand it, even if they don't like it, right? You have to give yourself permission to do what's best for you and to do it in a way that doesn't harm anyone else, right? But it's safe to trust what you want. It's safe to trust your desires. And it's safe to disappoint people. It's safe to do what's right for you, even if the other people may be, they may have expectations of what they want you to do. It's safe for you to do what's right for you. Here are some thoughts, some mantras, whatever that you can repeat. I get to choose. I am capable of making new choices. Discomfort is a sign of growth. I am supported by, list out whoever, whatever, to help you feel grounded and empowered to choose what is right for you. If you're in a stressful situation, let's say you're in an argument with your child or your partner or your colleague or whatever, and you're like, notice, right? You pause, you're paying attention. Oh my God, my heart's racing. I feel tight. My palms are sweating. I want to, lash out or whatever. And instead of doing that, you choose and you say, you know what? I need a break from this conversation. I need to go for a walk around the block. That person may not want you to take a break from that conversation. But if that is what's best for you, that's what's going to be best for them. Because when you go for that walk and you calm down, you can come back and have a more productive conversation, and you can work through whatever the challenge or disagreement is without disconnecting from this person who I'm guessing, you care about. So, and how to do this, how to get good at choosing what's right for us is to make one conscious choice a day, right? So it's to ask yourself, what do I really want in this moment? And to consciously choose it. Sometimes, when I say what we want, it's not an ego want. I may be stressed out and what I want is to go have a beer, right? Let's keep it real. That may not be the best thing for me. What I really want in that moment is to calm down, right? And my pattern may be to numb out. But I know that that isn't what's best for me because it just perpetuates the cycle. So a more aligned choice may be, I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go meditate, or I'm going to go journal. So when we're choosing what we want, it's not a want here. It's a want from our heart, right? It's a want from our soul. It's the want that's driving us to love ourselves more and to love, the people who we're interacting with more. And then commit to feeling your best, so on a day-to-day basis, say, I'm going to commit to feeling good. And when I catch myself not feeling good, I'm going to show up for myself and I'm going to do something about it. I'm not just going to wallow in it, and, when we choose, and let's say we may make a choice that turns out to not be great for us, or we choose something that, that repeats a pattern, this is where forgiveness has to come in. We have to be willing to admit when we have acted out of alignment, or when we've done something that we know deep down isn't what's best. And we have to forgive ourselves and we have to let it go. So we're not carrying on with self-blame and self-judgment and attacking ourselves. We're forgiving it and we're moving forward. Okay. That's the only way to do it. Where's my arrow? There we go. All right. Now, working with clients, working with students, working in the capacities that I've worked, I've become very aware that people do not like to feel feelings, myself included. I like to think about my feelings. I like to intellectualize about my feelings, but feeling them isn't fun because feeling can be uncomfortable. That's where we breathe. But one way to really fine tune what is the specific thing that I'm feeling is by using something like this graphic that's here. It's called a feelings wheel. Google it, you can find one. It will help you. But when we can really name how we feel, we can shift it. So let's say you are mad, right? But mad doesn't fully encompass how you feel. Mad fine-tuned into frustrated, right? Well, what can you do when you feel frustrated? How can you move through frustration? When we can name what we feel, we can shift it. We can respond to it in a more attentive way. And that helps us kind of release the grip that the feeling and the emotion can have on us. So one thing that I recommend is to get yourself a feelings wheel printed out, and each day or each evening, check in. What were some of the feelings and the emotions that I felt today? And what were some of the actions that I took in response to that or because of that? And again, this is going to strengthen our self-awareness. And the more self-aware we are, the more empowered we are to make conscious choices. When we are empowered to make conscious choices, we feel a sense of freedom and liberation, you know? So this is really important work. And this, you have to be honest. You can't lie. You can't lie. You can't, no more pretending that you don't feel the way you feel. Okay. You have to admit that you feel, that you feel the way you feel. Be honest, be vulnerable, express it to people, pretending that you don't feel how you feel perpetuates the feeling. What we resist persists. Someone brilliant said that. It wasn't me, but it's true, And then really, how can we be honest and vulnerable, talk about how we feel without being overly emotional, right? So without lashing out or letting our emotions just kind of take over, right? So how can we stay aware and talk about what we're going through without creating more drama and more stress or making it about our feelings versus the resolution of that? This is probably my favorite slide. It's kind of busy. There's a lot happening here, but it's packed full of lots of tools and ways to respond. So we have to pay attention to where we get stuck so that we can consciously choose to do something different. Most people are stuck in their mind. I tell my clients the longest journey that you will ever take is 18 inches, and it's from your head to your heart. Right? So that's why being stuck in our head and thinking is the first thing that I have listed here. And here are 4 things that you can do when you catch yourself in that, analysis paralysis, the overthinking, the hash and the rehash, just the grinding, right? So when you catch yourself here, the question is for yourself, what am I going to do with my hands? What am I going to do with my feet? Get moving, right? Move in a way that allows you to focus, your attention on something besides your thinking. So do a task, do a creative project, go garden, do something, right? That's going to get you out of your head, create the spaciousness from the thoughts that you're having. Once you have created some space, anchor into your heart, right? Get into your heart so that you can feel yourself in this safe place so that you can, step 3, feel the feelings and release them, right? And the last thing is a question to ask yourself to help you get clear on what you're feeling and to help you release whatever has its grip on you, which is, what's the feeling I'm thinking about rather than feeling, right? For those of us, I also resonate with this level, who get stuck in the feels and the emotions, right? I'm a deep feeling person. I'm very sensitive. Are you? If you're deeply sensitive, if you would consider yourself empathic, right? This is where this layer will help you, right? So when you're stuck in the feels and the emotions, the first thing that you want to do is get outwardly focused. Go talk to people, call up your friends, make some plans, go volunteer, go do a community event. Get outside of yourself, get beyond the feelings and the emotions that you can just wrap yourself in like a burrito. You know what I mean? You got to break free of that, get out of your own shit. And the best way to do that is to connect with community. The second thing, once you've kind of lightened the load of the feelings, whether it's depression or despair or hopelessness or whatever it may be, once you've kind of lightened that a little bit by being externally focused, and if you go and you hang out with your friends, don't just go and vent about all the shit that's going on in your life. Don't do that. Listen to them. Let yourself be distracted by whatever what's going on in their life. Offer solutions and ideas. Don't make it about you, because when we're stuck in the feels, it's all about us, and we have to break that pattern. So then you feel and release, right? Use the feelings wheel, journal, move your body. Number 3, and a question to ponder and to bring to your journal is, what if I allowed my emotions to just be, and I still showed up to life in a more authentic way, right? So instead of showing up to life, feeling gloomy and blah and whatever, it's like, yeah, I feel that, but that's not all of it. Can I still show up to life in a way that's more like me? Can I let my feelings be and still do the things that I need to do, right? And then if you're a person who, when change and stress comes, you're on the go, 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 action, 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 stay busy as a way to distract yourself, again, from feeling the feelings that need to be felt, right? So you can pay attention to your behaviors to clue you into whatever is the feeling or the emotion that you're trying to avoid. The other day I was driving and I was irritated. Everybody was pissing me off. This person didn't stop. This person, whatever. Everybody was pissing me off. And I was like, what is going on here? Why am I so upset right now? What am I frustrated about? Right. And it clued me into, there was something within me that I needed to process, I needed to look at, and I wouldn't have noticed it if I wasn't paying attention to how I was driving that day. Normally I'm a pretty calm, whatever driver. But this time it was like every single little thing was irritating me. That clued me in to the knowing that there's something for me to examine. In order to do that, examination work, anchor in your heart. That's the safe space. It feels good to be in your heart. It feels safe. It feels like home. So anchor in your heart, do that feeling and releasing work. A question to help guide you is, what's the feeling I'm avoiding by being busy and staying distracted from how I truly feel, right? That will guide you to that deeper place to free you from whatever is. Okay, things that don't help, things that we all do that don't help, right? Numbing ourselves out, adding self-pity to the party. We don't need that. An unwillingness to let things go, right? Like, we have to learn how to drop the rope. We have to learn, and that's really drama, right? The longer that we hold on to something, it's really just our own habit of drama. And we can unlearn drama by learning to just let things go, let things be. Forgiveness work is crucial for that. We don't want to blame other people, so we can take this internal icky feeling that we have and we can project it out. We can say it's this person's fault, or that's that person who didn't stop. It's not true. It's our own shit. You know what I mean? And when we blame, we disempower ourselves, and that's what we don't want to do. We want to feel empowered and capable of navigating life, right? We can become defensive, we can justify, and we can see ourselves as the victim. All of these things, and complain. Let me add complaining to that list. All of these things disempower us, and when we aren't feeling empowered, we won't consciously choose to make different choices because we don't have the power. We will go back to what is known, unconsciously, what are our habits and our patterns. So I've provided you with a list of questions that you can use to help you move out of these areas that we can all catch ourselves in when things aren't working. So it's really important to trust yourself, to trust that inner deep knowing, like I was saying. Don't listen to the ego that says, go shopping. You'll feel better. You might, but you're not getting at the root. You're not really getting to that place that helps you have a new way to respond to stress. You have to take good care of yourself. We have to practice greater self-care. We have to learn to rest, and this is energy work, and it takes a toll, and we have to rest so that we can recuperate. We live in a society that glamorizes and celebrates productivity, and I'm here partly to put a stop to that. It's okay to rest. That's when we integrate and we embody, right? We deeply embody these changes that we're making. So if we don't carve out the time, if we don't plan the time for our self-care and for true rest, we're missing the chance to deeply, deeply learn and shift these patterns and these habits for good. We have to see every day as a practice, that we choose to show up to. And we have to remember that change takes time. There's no way around that, my friends. So how can we intentionally align and grow? We can begin a daily alignment practice. The 4 steps that I have listed here are things that you can do that will help you get into your heart and into your body and realign you with love, right? Realign you so that your background programming is what I call it, or your general perspective, right, is one that's aligned with love, which feels like, trust and knowing and fun and hope and inspiration and what good could come from this, right? So a daily gratitude practice, a daily meditation, mindfulness practice, journaling as a way to process feelings and emotions. It is the strongest, best tool that I've ever used is journaling. Another thing, singing, music, that will help process emotions in the same way journaling can. And then moving your body every day, doing something every day, even if it's only for 5 minutes to start, but doing something every day to move those emotions, because our emotions are stuck in our body. They're not in our mind. So we have to move our body to help free ourselves from the emotions that we feel. We're meant to grow through life. For whatever reason, we think that when we graduate from high school or college, that like all of a sudden the growing is done. And that's just false. We are forever growing. And we can choose to grow, and we can choose to navigate the resistance that comes up when we are in a space of growth, or when we're facing something new, or when we are we're stepping into the unknown by learning new things. Pick up a habit, start studying an instrument, take a class, do something that will kind of bring you in touch with your own resistance that happens when change comes, and learn how to navigate through it without it being this life, this bigger life issue. Have it be something fun, that you really want to learn and do. And the last thing that you can do is you can join my group coaching program that's starting next week, Seasons of Change. And in the beautiful thing about, I'm going to go to the next slide. The beautiful thing about coming into a container, coming into a program, a group program to work together for change, is that soul work is best done in community. People talk about accountability. I don't like the word accountability. I like the word commitment. Because to me, accountability feels like finger pointing, whereas commitment feels like a willingness from our heart, if you will, and so when we commit to doing work together in a program, we show up on a consistent basis. So it really does allow for us to shift these patterns at a deep level. I'm here to work with the change makers. I'm here to work with the people who dare to dream of a better world, and those people show up in all kinds of different jobs, but you'll see here on this slide, this is who it is. It really is the people who want to see a world that's kinder, that's more inclusive, and that's more loving, and if you're watching this, you are one of those people, and to the parents who want to do parenting better, than maybe what they experienced, because they want their child to grow up and have better tools and resources to navigate stress, and change, because it's never ending, So this program, what it offers is an opportunity for you to come with your specific situations that are happening in your life, right? And you will receive individualized coaching in this group container. You'll be working alongside other people. So you'll be able to hear what their challenges are, what my coaching advice is to them, how they move through things. When we come together in a group, for millennia, people have been coming together in groups or in circles, to do healing, to do transformation. And it's because our intention is more empowered, right? There's more oomph, if you will, behind what we're doing. Changing alone is very hard. And it oftentimes leads to a lot of self-judgment, being extra critical, being harsh, and we're not having that when we come together in a group, right? So this is an opportunity to take all of the things that I've just talked about and to truly commit to practicing them, so that you can show up as a better parent, as a better colleague, as a better creative, as a better partner. Did I say that already? As a better human, we can see very clearly that, we're in a polarizing place and we're not seeing each other eye to eye. And when we intentionally do the work to become more aware of our own habits, of the ways that we move through things, and we consciously choose to do it differently, and by doing it differently, it's a way that's more loving, we will automatically show up to the people and to the world with greater love, right? So our own implicit bias begins to melt away. We become more inclusive, right? We make more authentic, heart-centered connection. So here are some details about the program. It's on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. You'll call into a phone number. It's not on Zoom. It's weekly. You will have people to move through this together. It's telling me that my internet connection is unstable. And I will be there to help guide you specifically. I will provide tools to speak to whatever particular challenge you're going through. And I will provide coaching, in real time to help you move through this. The point of the program is to lay a foundation. It's to say, I am committed to responding to stress and change in a new way. And so I'm going to commit to this program so that I can do it and do it well, right? That's what it is. We're not going to solve all of your problems in a 10-week program. That's not going to happen. But we can lay a foundation. We can start to build new habits. And once we have a solid foundation of those built, we will use them for the rest of our lives. I am in group coaching. I know the transformational power of group coaching. It really is a special place, to do this deep work. So the cost is $995. You can email me if you have questions and if you'd like to register. My email is listed here, Annie@beaconempowerment.net, but those of us who are committed to creating a world that works for everyone, those of us who are doing important work in the world, we need to be able to do the work and to feel good. I was an educator for over 10 years and I got burnt out. I was angry and I was resentful and I was frustrated, and it's because I didn't know how to respond to stress and change in ways that didn't totally pull me out, that didn't dysregulate me. I numbed a lot. I stayed distracted a lot, and I was angry a lot, and it doesn't work. That doesn't work. And so this program really comes from my heart. It comes from a time in my life where if I could go back and teach myself then what I know now, I would, because I would be more successful, I would be more impactful, and I would leave a wake of love behind me, even if I was, coming to something all fired up and saying, this shit can't happen, right? I wouldn't have been as polarizing as I could be at times, right? So we can move through stress in life and change with being loving and kind, compassionate, curious beings. And we have to give ourselves a chance to learn how to do that. Seasons of change is that opportunity for you to learn, right? I would love for you to be a part of it. I would love for you to join me on this adventure. And I would love to hear any comments or questions that you have, both in response to this webinar, but then also specifically about this program. Let me know, if you have questions, if you want to talk about it. This is it. This is it. So here again is my email. Reach out with questions, comments. I'd love to answer them. Thank you for giving me 53 minutes of your time today. It's been an honor to be here, to share this with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to hearing from you.